This is another one of Louis Armstrong's most popular songs. As I said, some musical liberties were taken with. While mockingbirds used to sing, and I'd like to see the lazy Mississippi.
Be right back.
Hurrying into spring. The moonlight on the bayou, Creole tunes fill the air. Oh, and I dream of magnolias in bloom. I'm wishing I was there. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans, when that's where you left your home, your heart? And there's something more. I miss the one I care for. I miss her more than I miss New Orleans. New Orleans. Oh, hey. moonlight on the bayou. Creole tunes fill the air. Oh, and I dream of magnolias in bloom. Well, I wish I were there. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans? When that's where you left your home, your heart. And there's something more. I miss the one I care for. I miss more than I miss New Orleans, New Orleans. Hey, hey. I miss my baby. Oh, oh, I miss my baby. I miss my baby now more than I miss New Orleans, New Orleans. Oh.
What a cool version of that tune. I feel like this microphone might be a little too loud, and I can hear some of the echo in. Oh, I hear a hum too. Something in my system is giving me a hum. I wonder what that is. It might be this microphone, actually. Anyway, what's up, everybody? Hey, welcome to the live stream. Let's see. I tried to take my name off so we could see who's performing in that other video, but yeah, okay, everyone popping in saying hi. I will say back. Hi, I will say hi back. Go over here. Hello. Hey, Bertie Wooster. Hey, Bill in Missouri. Hey, Ann, and anybody else that's out there watching. My name is Dallas, and this is my accordion live stream. As you can see down here, risingreed.com. That's my accordion learning website that I teach accordion lessons at, and I taught one just this morning, or this afternoon, I guess. I taught a couple yesterday. Tomorrow's 4th of July, and we're taking the day off, so I won't be teaching any at all, but I'll be teaching again next week. And I'm also an accordion performer, and I'm also an accordion, I guess, lover. Well, I don't love all kinds of accordion music, but I love a lot of different kinds, and it's my thing. This is my thing. And I do this stream. I try to do it every week. I skipped last week because I was out in the desert and the internet was kind of messed up and wasn't working. But we're back here today. I had to reschedule it because last Thursday, a week ago, on Thursday, I got on an airplane and I flew with my accordion to Dallas, Texas. And I'll start off the live stream by talking about my little tour of Texas with Tatiana Eva Marie. I haven't looked to see if there's any video of her from those shows up on YouTube. Let's see. I wonder. Let's just see if there's anything of us up. Go to this week. Let's see if there's anything I could show you guys. No, I don't see anything. I probably have to go to her social media or my social media, but I didn't prepare any of that, so I won't. But anyway, it was really cool. So Tatiana is a phenomenal musician, and I've been playing with her. She's a vocalist. We can check her out a little bit. I don't think there's any video of me. Maybe if I do, let's just see what comes up in the last week. Anything? Nah, nothing. Okay. Anyways, but this is here. This is her. Let's see. Let's find... Here, I'll play one that I really like a lot. That she recorded on her latest record that I've really enjoyed playing with her. So Tatiana and Sweet Chorus. So this is a tune. I'm so glad I learned this one for Django and June this year. I did an episode on this tune, Sweet Chorus. Now I thought there was a music video of this one, but apparently it's not. But let's check this out. This is just so great. This is her arrangement, and she wrote this introduction. That's too bad, because I want you guys to see her, because this is a visual medium. The live stream is a visual medium. I was hoping to bring it. Well, I'll have to do a different tune. We'll listen to this one. This one is so cool. But there's no music video for this. So I learned this off the record. She wrote this whole, like, it's a verse, you know, in classic sense of the great tunes from the earlier Broadway age that became jazz standards that have, there's the song that we know, and then there's the verse, which goes, how glad the many millions of would be. I don't know. I'm trying to think of some verses off the top of my head here. But it's this usually like sort of rubato part of a song, and it doesn't have your standard song form, and it's very helpful because it sets up what the kind of more chorus part of the song that we usually associate as the song is all about. Anyways, Tatiana did this record. This is the new one that came out, I think last year, called Djangology, where she took Django's music, a lot of it, and she wrote her own lyrics to his music, and it's done so well. Really, really phenomenal. This is a beautiful verse that she wrote.
Night was such a love.
Hang on, I started.
Last night was such a lovely party, friends and family, cake and champagne till 3. The gang had all gone home. I was feeling tired, but before I retired, I became inspired by the man tinkling at the baby grand. Chérie.
And then, so that is in the key of D flat, and she ends on the dominant chord of that, tinkling, the man tinkling at the baby grand. So it's about falling in love with a piano player at a party. It's really, really cool, and just beautiful. I love it. Neat harmonies. So I had to learn that, by ear off this record, and then that is this original piece of music she wrote to set up this tune, which is a Django tune called Sweet Chorus that we have learned. Like I went through this. It was, I think, one of the first tunes that I did on the road to Django and June stuff. And it was a tier 2 tune. And I'm so glad that I did it because it saved me a lot of time. It made me, having done that a few months ago, made me very familiar with this tune. But then she put lyrics to Sweet Chorus. She changes the melody a little bit, like you'd have to, because all you have is Django's performances of the tune, which are so guitar-y, but the melody is there. I mean, if you know Sweet Chorus, you recognize it.
There's no one here but me, and though we're past our prime, I'm sure we have the time to sing a chorus or two, play a tune. Our favorite melodies, and though we're full of wine, we'll remember every line. And somehow.
Cool. Well, here's a video, not with me, but with a different accordion player, with Ben Rosenblum. He's really wonderful, super. He's a Juilliard grad. He's a pianist as well. He's a really killer musician. Let's check them out up in. So it's just like that, except for everybody except Tatiana was different. So it was me instead of Ben, instead of Julian on bass. I know all these guys. Well, I don't think I've met Ben in person, but I know of him because he's a working jazz musician in New York City. And the accordion world is a small world. That's Julian Smith on the bass. He's plays a lot with the gypsy jazz and French swing guys, so I've played with him a million times. And that is the Italian bass player. He actually visited me when I lived in New Orleans. That is, I'm flaking on his name right now. Wonderful guy. It'll come back to me. Sorry. Absolutely wonderful violinist that my brain is blanking. But so Tatiana just has a really big career. And it was really fun to be in Texas with her. We did 2 dates in Dallas. It was a quick tour, but it was fun. 2 dates in Dallas, Texas, 1 date in Houston, and 1 date in Austin. And then I came home. I got to play at a really cool club called Anton's in Austin that is legendary. It has pictures of Clifton Chenier all over the place, which I had no idea. I didn't know anything about it. I've got this very... I tried to take some selfies. I don't like them. I think I look stupid in them, but... Anyway, here's a picture of me with this is in the green room. They had this beautiful artwork of Clifton. Anyways, if you follow me on Instagram, my performer profile, which is Dallas Vietty on Instagram. And I'm trying to post a lot more like you're supposed to do. If you're a performer, you're supposed to put your reels and your posts and all that sort of stuff. So I'm doing that around my gigs and promoting that sort of stuff and little slice of life things. So it was great. It was a super busy tour. The violinist on the tour was Daniel Garlitzki, who is a super heavy musician. I mean, all these people are. And let me look him up. Daniel Garlitzki here. Oh yeah, he's so great. So here's him with Duved, them doing their thing. Yeah, this is great. This is Daniel on the left. So I've seen these guys live. I had seen Daniel, I believe was at Django and June 1 year that I was there. It might have been after COVID, the year before this year that I did it, which was 2022. And these Daniel Garlitzki with Duved are legendary in the today's Django scene because they're both virtuosos. Duved, not any more so than Daniel, because they're both just phenomenal, insanely good musicians. But they do a very trad. You can see by their every time you see Duved, he looks exactly like this. He's a musician who does this thing, very traditional, but it's like it is in addition to having a real mastery. I mean, he sounds, you can't get somebody that sounds closer. He basically plays only things that he's heard off of Django records, and that's it. Super phenomenal. And I found out from Daniel, because I was asking him, it's so exciting to hang out with musicians, and I've been so busy dealing with my family stuff and the house. I've been really out of my normal hanging out with musician stuff. So especially like jazz musicians from Europe, I love to ask them, or different cities, but especially Europe, because I know the least about what's going on over there, is, hey, do you play with any jazz accordion players? Charlie. Hey, Charlie. Charlie says Garlitzki has such a strong tone. Yeah. So you know what I learned about Daniel Garlitzki is he's at least third, maybe fourth generation of like super badass classical violinist. And his grandfather was a really huge deal in his day, and played in the major symphonies in the Soviet Union. And his father, I'm not sure exactly the details, but basically the same thing. I think that must have overlapped the fall of the Soviet Union, his father's life, obviously. And then Daniel has taught at the Paris Conservatory, which is like, one of the oldest music schools in Europe, and super, super important. I mean, it's that's where Debussy went there, and like countless super heavy influencers of 20th century's classical thing. And he chose to not be a professor there. To pursue other musical interests. It was like, it couldn't contain him. He is bigger than that school. And that was just such a treat. And I wish I had more. I'll find video as it emerges, because certainly there was lots of people at these shows that we went to. So I just got to get on. But it's like when you're doing the tour, you're just consumed with. For me, I was just every free moment that I had to myself that I was trying to just run through the tunes again, because it's one thing to get the list of songs. And then it's another thing, to prepare myself. And I knew them pretty well, but then it's another thing to actually, meet the band and then learn things. And it's like, oh, you didn't remember, you didn't figure out that we do nuage and it starts in the key of E flat. Yeah, I got that. No problem. I learned nuage in E flat, which nuage is a little bit of a tricky tune. And then, oh yeah, but then we modulate back to the key of G for the violin solo. Okay, no problem. But then after the end of the violin solo, then we modulate to the key of D major, but only the very end where it goes to the minor 4 and then back to the 1. And then after that, we modulate back to G. So it's like things like that I didn't know. And it's nice for the nervous system to have some repetition, especially when you're on stage in a new city and all that sort of stuff. So it's fun. Being on the road is fun. A particularly not fun thing, but that I absolutely conquered with the help of some very kind and generous people is, let's see here. I'll share this video with you guys. I think this is the one that I posted.
First of all, I hope the baby's great.
Oh no, let's see. That was something I sent to somebody.
All right, so I'm in a place called The Colony, which is in Dallas, Fort Worth area. And as you guys can see in here, I got an F and an F sharp both playing at the same time. And I got to play, what is it? It's not quite noon yet, but I got to sound check at 5. And I really want to run through my tunes. And I can't do that. So I'm going to go to a guy named Greg, who's outside Dallas, Texas. I got the number from Norman Seaton. And hopefully he can fix this up real quick. And I think I talked to Gabe a little bit, and I think I probably just didn't block the basses enough, So this is just a little update on the flight case and what it's like to fly and tour as a musician. So luckily, I know somebody who knows a repair person. I'm going to go there basically as soon as I stop this video, and I'll update you guys, let you know how it goes. All right, so I'm in...
All right, let's just playing again. So that was lovely. So I woke up, and of course you're in a motel, so you can't practice your accordion in there. And it's summer in Dallas, Texas. So I've got the flight case. I go, okay, cool. Like I've had some coffee. It's 10 a.m. or something. Like, here we go. Like go outside, sit under a tree. I'm from the desert, as you guys know, so it's like I can handle it. If you got shade and a breeze, you can survive. If you don't have both of those, you're in trouble. But I was able to find both of those. Well, there was actually lots of trees all over the parts of Texas that I went to. It's nice. I've never been to Texas before. I want to find Greg's last name so I can give him the proper appreciation that he is due today. Let me see if I can find this here. Where did I write those notes? Oh boy, I'll find it. Anyways, I'll talk while I'm looking for it. Where are those names? Oh boy. Well, I'll get it by the end of, I can't find it. But by the end of the live stream, I'll say. So anyway, what ended up happening was a lot of times, like, so I took the accordion and I put it in the flight case, and this is I'd used it once to get to, where did I go with the flight case? Back here. Oh, for Django and June. So I flew out for Django and June with the flight case. That was the first time. Flew out, flew back. So one way, 2 trips here from the West Coast to the East Coast and then back. And there actually was a little bit of damage to the accordion from that. It was, and it's due to the fact that there's just such, like, basically almost, there's not really quite enough space around the dimensions of this accordion. So it fits in the case, but there are some places, especially around the sides of the keyboard, which wasn't the damaged part, but the bass is actually down at the foot of the bass. Something must have happened in it, and it just the impact to the case moved the accordion inside, and it just broke the celluloid covering of the bass. And I actually need to send a picture to Gabe and ask him what he suggests I do. Nobody can see it unless you're like unless you're close enough to play the accordion and you have it on, and it's on the back. So, and there's no crack, so that's fine. That was the first time I flew with it. So then the second time I flew with it, like the second, sort of trip, technically it's third flight, was the video that I just showed. So I just arrived hot already at 10 a.m. and I'm sitting outside under a tree and trying to wake up, and then just like unblocking the basses, and then I figure that out. And I have some good people to call, like Gabe Rodriguez from Seattle, and he said, yeah, you can try this, but also call Norman Seaton. Norman Seaton is the head of the National Accordion Association, and he's based in Dallas, Texas. So it was like, he's going to know probably some people to help. And he did. He was I was able to get a hold of him very quickly. He was extremely generous and helpful. He gave me a bunch of names. The first name I called was Greg, and I really should find that. This is the part of the show where I'm talking about Greg. So I have his number saved. Here, give me 1 second, folks, because I want to give credit where credit is due here. Gotta scroll back in my texts. Pardon me. Greg Kugelwitz. Is there a photo of us? No, but super generous guy. I mean, I paid him, and he's a professional, and you could pay him too to help you fix your stuff. Greg Kugelwitz. If you're in Dallas, Texas, and you're interested, Google him or hit up Norman Seaton, and you can get the number there. And that was great. And I said, hey, here, you don't know me, but I know, I called Norman, and he said, oh, no problem. Like, I'm retired. I have the whole day off. And so I took an Uber down there. It was about a 30 or 40-minute ride to kind of the other side of town from where I was. And he just completely accommodated me. And what we ended up doing is, it's what do you call it? It's a process of elimination. So you're trying to troubleshoot all that kind of stuff. And so we basically just started pulling out the bass buttons. First we started by looking and seeing if what were these called? The forks. So it's too hard for me to explain, you guys, but the forks that come out, and then each button has like little pins. And so the most common problem that could cause that, especially from jostling around, is where the fork should be above the pin. The fork should be below the pin. So when you press the button has the pin. So the button's attached to this, and it presses the fork, and that opens the door, right? So it's like, that's what happens. And then what can happen is the pin can go above the fork, and then it's messed up and it doesn't work. So that's a pretty easy fix usually. If it's that, you just have to find it out of more than 120, out of so many. So you're looking, and you're looking all, and it looks, I'm sure many of you have looked inside of an accordion. It's like finding a needle in a haystack there. And so I looked by myself, but I knew I was under a time constraint. I was like, I better just set the wheels in motion, and I just need to get this fixed as soon as possible, especially so that I can run through the music, because this was the first performance. So I took the thing down, and we went through, and we tried to do that, and he said, well, now we have to start pulling out the buttons. And he had this little caddy. I don't think that I wish I would have taken a photo of it, but honestly, like when you're in that headspace, it was just like I did do some like documenting of it, to share and to post on social media and stuff, because it's a good story. But it was mostly just crisis mode, because I'm there to, she's hired me and paid for me to come out and accompany her. So anyway, it's like, imagine those little test tube holders, it's like kind of a rack with like just holes in it, and it would perfectly fit a bunch of test tubes. It's like that, except for it looks like the 120, the six buttons and 20 columns, it was like drilled like that. So, and he had it all marked. So this is the diminished rows. So we just started at the back. And so we said, okay, let's just start pulling them out. And as we go, we'll see if those notes that are leaking will stop leaking. And so anyway, to try to accelerate this story, pulled out the diminished, or wasn't the diminished, pulled out the dominants, pulled out the wasn't them, pulled out the majors, wasn't the majors, pulled out the minors, wasn't the minors. We're still looking around, can't figuring out. And then I go, hey, like, and I noticed this, which I'm proud of myself. Here, this is an enlarged view of it. Looks like a tarantula or something. But notice right in the middle of that photograph, that gap. That gap should not be there. And let's see, can I zoom in on this? This little, see that little half circle looking thing that I've zoomed in on? That there should be something in that. So the thing that's right below it should be in it. So these are called axle rods or something like that. And those are actually like the things that the rakes are attached to. And so somehow the impact of the of being a piece of luggage coming from LAX to Dallas, Texas, and getting thrown around by luggage handlers caused a couple of those to slip down. And so in order to fix it, we had to take out all 120 bases. And so I said, hey, Greg, is that supposed to be there? He said, I don't think so. So we pulled it all out. You have to unscrew some things along the way that hold it all in. And then we moved them up. And then we saw that actually these screws that kind of have these brackets that hold those on there were a little loose. So tighten those up. And hopefully that's the reason. And I flew back with it, and I played it yesterday and today because I got home 2 nights ago. And it's working fine. It does leak a little bit more, just a little bit more. It was when I got it home from Gabe, right after when I had the microphones installed in it, it was like airtight. Like you couldn't get anything to come through that. Gabe had done such a great job. So now it does leak, and I wonder if that's something that maybe the factory did. Who knows? But that's okay. That's a price I'm willing to pay for have a working accordion and fixed on the fly. So that was amazing. I paid him. It was so great. And so we got that fixed, and then we put them all back in and closed it up, and it worked, and it worked for the rest of the tour, and it worked here. So fingers crossed, that's good. And there is a huge positive of this beyond meeting people and the kindness of our community, to help each other and stuff like that, and to be available. And he was extremely generous at last minute notice, which is like, I would have had to find another solution, and I'm sure it would have been a lot worse. But a cool thing is I know how to do it now. I did it, and it wasn't rocket science. I would not have figured it out by myself. And I tend to be the type of person, I know from working on the house in the desert, I just get anxious about like, well, if I try to do this and it goes wrong, then, it's like that sort of thing. Like a lot of this, like, oh, what if I don't do it right kind of thing. Whereas if I can do it with somebody who's done it before, then that goes away and I can just sort of focus. So it was so cool. So it was almost like, I paid him to fix it. And I also paid him for a class on how to fix it. Because he was so kind and generous. Greg was. He let me sit next to. He pulled up a chair. Hey, all right, here, pull that one out. And it was great, man. It was so cool. So that was a really neat experience too. And then just getting to hang out with these wonderful musicians. Wallace Stelzer was the bass player. I should give him a shout out too. He's from Houston, Texas, and I got to meet some of his friends and family while we were down there. And it was just a really fun thing. And so it was a wonderful tour, and I'm very inspired. Because like I tell my students, when you go out and perform, it in addition to all the positives that you get from performing, you also in your craft and your work and the time when we're, refining our craft and learning how we can do better, it really shows us where we have room for improvement and stuff. And so that was really cool. That I feel very motivated. I feel like I did a fine job, and I know we made like phenomenal music together. And I'm very inspired, and it's just always inspiring. You grow by being around excellent musicians, which the 3 of them are phenomenal musicians, all 3, and really fun, interesting people to hang out with. But there's, my ego and my appetite for being the best I can. It shows where some wonderful things are there for me. So I'm back with enthusiasm and verve and energy for all that. So that's kind of the summary. Let me check in with the chat here. Let's see. Any questions about that? Hey, Felix, what's happening, man? I just saw Charlie's comment. That's so good. That's awesome, Charlie. Yeah, man, it's great. Yeah. So that was really fun. And let's see. A week from tomorrow, I'll be playing twice at the American Accordionist Festival right outside of Philadelphia in a little town called Conshohocken. It's a suburb, really, of Philly. And I'll be playing solo for half of the set with Mario Taka, who's a legendary button accordion player, and I believe his wife is going to sing as well. They usually perform as a duo, and he's a shredder. They're just bad musicians. And then that evening concert, I'll get to perform with my trio, and it's a killer show. It's never be the best one on the show, no. But Felipe Hostens, who's a just killer Brazilian musician who usually plays forró, but he can play all sorts of things really, really well. He's going to do a set, and he'll tear the house down. I know it. And Peter Stan, based out of Queens, who plays a lot of Balkan musics, amongst other things too. He's also going to do a set, and he's going to blow the house down. I know. So that's going to be so cool to get to enjoy their sets as well. And that is, in my opinion, that's a show that I would love to see if I wasn't on it, is Peter Stan and Felipe Hostens. So if you're in the Philly area, please come to the AAA Festival concert on Friday. I will not be there on Saturday, but it's also happening on Saturday, and that's going to be great. I will be in New York City on Saturday, the 12th. Yeah, I think that's the 12th. And 13th, Saturday and Sunday, for some Bastille Day concerts in town at a little restaurant called Pastis that I played at earlier this year. That'll be doing Django music, and that'll be really great. And that's kind of the updates on my life here. It's been fun. It's been really fun. I have been into basically just been in preparation mode for that gig, for the week leading up to it, and that was great. It was really fun. It's really fun to be also the sole chordal instrument with a vocalist. So no guitar, no piano, just accordion, and you have bass and violin. And that was really, really cool. So I really enjoyed that. Let's see. What else to say and talk about? Well, today's theme, when we get to the topic today, it's going to be about accordion method books. And I want to talk about a little bit about, this is essentially a return to using the stream for topics that are not solely about jazz, because my audience and my student base, what I'm able to teach, my interests, and my audience watching this are not solely jazz people. And nor am I. I like a lot of different stuff. Probably jazz is at the top of the list, but that's okay. I mean, there's all sorts of really amazing things. And so I want to talk about that today. I had planned on what I want to also return to exploring musics from around the world. And we have spent a lot of time. The last time that I did sort of a little kind of theme was exploring musics from South America of the accordion musics from South America. And that has been incredibly interesting and enriching. And I thought, given what's going on today and my own interest in people that I know, wonderful musicians here in the United States and other cultures, I thought I would like to do a series on musics of accordionists from the Middle East. And I was going to start with Iran today. And I'm still going to, but I'm not going to do it today because I'm kind of exhausted and have not had really the time that I thought I was going to have to prepare for all this. So what I thought instead of I'm going to postpone Iran and all the other countries. We're going to do Israel. We're going to do Egypt is super important. As I was talking to a friend of mine who has played classical Arabic music ensemble, she told me, I'm not an expert at all. I'm completely ignorant to all this stuff. So I'm learning with all of us. And if anybody knows differently, please put in the chat. Help us all learn together. But she told me that the way she phrased it, just in a brief phone call, she said, well, kind of each country or region has she called it a specialty, but there's cultures evolve around different instruments. And I think she said, was it Lebanon? It's clarinet's the instrument. I forget if it was Lebanon or somewhere else. Maybe it was Turkey. But she said the accordion was the most popular in Egypt. And earlier, when the accordion was more popular around the world, so 40s and 50s, in Egypt, accordion was a very super popular and highly often played instrument in Arabic music. So we got to do Egypt, and I'm gonna do a whole bunch of stuff, but I want to prepare more, especially because I'm so uninformed about it. But what I thought we could do today, just a brief segment to sort of whet our appetite and kind of the espresso machine. Now the good ones, they do a little pre-infusion so that before the shot goes, it squirts just a little bit of hot water in there to kind of wake the grinds up, you know. So this is that. Like, we're going to start next week, and it's going to be super cool and interesting. But I thought we could just talk about the whole concept of the maqam, and not talk, but just watch a couple short videos. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. But just this idea of some of the governing principles of a lot of this more traditional folk and classical music, which is based on its modal music, and this idea of a thing called a maqam, which is a scale. And I found a wonderful video. It's not what we're going to look at for a few minutes now is not specifically about Persian or Iranian music, but it is some of it is, but it's more trying to just give an overview of this idea of the music and how it works, what it does, because it is different. It's different than music from, you know, classical music from Europe or pop music from the West. It's different than that. It works kind of differently. And so I thought that would be interesting to talk about. And I'm wondering if anybody out there in the chat has any experience with microtonal musics, what we in the West call microtonal musics, which is the idea that our scale, our musical scale, this idea of an octave, right? An octave is exactly the doubling of a frequency. So you've probably heard of the note A440. That's how we tune in the United States. Most symphonies will tune their orchestras to A440. That sets the tuning, right? And if I use that, that's 440 hertz per second, I believe, which means the amount of peaks in the waveform. And the way an octave works mathematically is that the octave that is above, the next octave higher than A440 would be exactly double that frequency. Exactly double. And that's what an octave is. It is exactly double the frequency. And so the waves line up perfectly. You can imagine, if you imagine, you know, any sort of symmetrical, equally spaced waves, and then double that, you can imagine, you can overlay those two and see how they would line up perfectly, right? And that's why an octave is perfectly in tune with itself, or it should be, to be an octave, right? In our Western music, we have taken the space between an octave and we have divided that up into 12, with where it would be a 13th step to come up to the top. And we have something called equal temperament, which means that the space between them is equally spaced. And it hasn't always been that way. And even in not necessarily the modern era, like the 20th century, but before the 20th century, I think Bach lived through both. And he had well temperament. There's quarter tone tuning. There's all sorts of different tunings that I won't go into. But anyways, what a microtone is more than 12 notes. And to me, it sounds like out of tune, or I mean, I don't hear the music as out of tune, but those notes, my ear, I can barely recognize all 12 notes, you know, let alone anything in between. So that is a very unique and very important thing to understand. The very makeup of their music has many more notes. And as such, pretty much almost all traditional Arabic music, as far as I know, almost all of it cannot be played on Western instruments really how it should sound, because it requires these quarter tones. And so what accordion players who want to play that music do is they, like, I know I'm going to have him on as a guest sometime. I'm still working on my scheduling of guests, but I'm going to have a fabulous musician that I know who plays, who has quarter tone tuned his accordion. And he's done that by, like, for example, the C sharp. On an accordion, a C sharp has two different reeds. All the notes on an accordion, no matter what register you're on, have 2 reeds. Every note, like the C, has a reed, or the C, let's say C sharp, right? C sharp has 1 reed that plays when you open the bellows, and then it has an identically tuned reed that plays when you shut the bellows. That's the way it works. So what these accordion players do is they'll take one way or the other. They'll tune the other reed to be the additional note that they need for the scale. So their instrument then becomes a push-pull instrument, which is, I think you'd call it bisonoric, but I would not call it diatonic in that sense, because it's still a fully chromatic instrument. But then I'm not sure what you exactly should call it. And B Swords has a great comment that I think a lot of us, especially if you're a veteran accordion player and you bought some accordions, you will have run into this. So B Swords is talking about a good topic on 440 being the standard. I've learned that my accordion is actually tuned to 442. Yeah, and that's common. The C1 Figley that I had, I believe, was 442. Somebody I know, I think, has an accordion that's 444. A couple people that I know have them. And it's tough because it is very expensive, and it's tough to take an accordion and detune it. It's not an easy thing. It's not just like a guitar where you just like turn 6 pegs and you're good. It's probably thousands of reeds that need to be tuned, and you got to pay somebody to do that. So whenever anybody asks me, I say just don't. If you know that it's 440, 442 is not so bad. 444 is too noticeable. I would say don't do that, especially if you're like a professional level person and you might be doing some recording, because recording is where it's really going to become apparent, especially with an instrument like a piano that cannot tune. Even when I had that 442 instrument, it was a little bit of a pain because guitarists, I don't know, like a lot of them, they just kind of ignore the accordion player or whatever. They just put on their little tuner thing and they just look at that, and they're not using their ears. Like, hey, I'm not 440. I'm 442, which is just as easy for you, but just that little step, we all have our rhythms, our routine. So it can be a challenge. If you're playing by yourself, nobody will ever know. If you almost always play accordion by yourself, it really doesn't matter. It's only when you're playing with other instruments that are tuned to 440, where your instrument that's tuned to 442 could present a thing where one of the instruments would sound out of tune. It's probably the accordion if the whole band is 440 and the accordion is 444 or 442. Anyway, it's a fun, interesting topic. So macams, I'm interested to learn more about these, and I put together just a few videos here. And then after that, I'm going to talk about after we do the videos, I want to talk about the advertised topic of today's live stream, which is about method books. Palmer-Hughes, which is our most famous. You've probably all heard of that if you've been in the accordion world for. Oh, cool! Thanks, Charlie. Okay, so Charlie told me what this is called. Polychromatic. He told us all what it's called. A polychromatic instrument. I love labels. I mean, they can be limiting, right? Of course, but it's very useful. In fact, I'm going to share one fun thing. So I learned a phrase from Daniel Garlitzki, which is really fun. I learned like a term for a thing. So I'll show you guys. We're doing a tune called Two Guitars because Tatiana is half Romanian. Her mother's from Romania, so she knows all about Romanian culture. She speaks Romanian, and she sings in Romanian. And so we did this song called Two Guitars. And Daniel had this really cool intro that he taught me. And in the process, I can't do it because it's mostly just accompanying the violin while he goes crazy. I mean, it's the classic like gypsy build up where it's passionate and slow and rubato, and then it gets explosive and huge. And it was so exciting. Really, really fun. Oh, the other thing is there's a tune. Oh, I can't believe I didn't think of it. There's just too much to share about the tour. Yeah. Well, before we go to the Arabic music and before we go to the method books, I'll tell you 2 more things about the tour. Let's see. He called this a Russian turnaround. He said, "Oh, can you put a Russian turnaround at the end?" So Two Guitars is an incredibly simple tune. Okay. So So in A minor, let me know if you guys don't hear that. I'm not plugged into anything. It's just coming through this microphone. So we went in some big thing, we go rum, zam da dee dum. He did this whole fireworks pyrotechno thing. And then rum, he hit the A, and then I hit the A. Rum, la, dee, la. And then I did a thing. And then we start. And here would be where if you did it without any reharmonization or anything. So it was D minor, A minor, the one chord, 5, and then the 1 again. Just like that. And then it repeats. Right? And I'm not part of this culture at all. So I don't know any things that you would normally do, you know, like this is so fun. I love this. I love this even in town to town in the United States. You meet people from other towns, or you move to a big city and people teach you stuff about tunes. There's so much culture in everything that we do. And to learn it from other musicians, especially while you perform it, is just such a joy. I'm sure so many of you out there have that experience. But he said, okay. He said, okay, yeah, that's cool. But instead of going back to the 1, so I have to do the 4. And actually, this changed twice. So the first night, he said, the first time I'd ever played with him, I met him at Django and June, but I never played. Instead of going to the A minor, first he said, can you do a Russian turnaround there? And I said, well, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that. And he said, okay, well, it would be, instead of going to the 1, you're going to go to like, I'll tell you guys the chord. So instead of going to a D minor, or pardon me, instead of going to an A minor, right, go to, make it a 2-5 to get back to the D minor. So when I play this, you'll know what I'm talking about. So instead of after the 5, it was, there's the 2, there, and then that is an A7 to take you back to the D minor. Let me play it a few times. Here it is. Right, so like that. And he would probably change the melody there because that doesn't sound like it fits too well. So he probably played something there. And so we did that, and I thought that was really cool. And I just like that because that's a super common thing. And he said, if you do it like that, then you create the form instead of the same thing every time. It's essentially a 4-bar pattern. D minor, 2nd bar A minor, 3rd bar A7, A minor to A7. They're very similar sounding that way. Both, it is kind of it's a binary thing, you know, a form that has 2 halves, and the first half doesn't resolve and the second half does resolve. So you have a longer form that way, even though they're both very similar. But this creates more difference in it. So it's making some more out of the song. And he said this explicitly to me. I said, oh, I totally get it. That's cool. So, you know, we're trying to make the accompaniment sound even better. And he has played with Tatiana way more, and I'm sure he's learned this from Eastern European people and stuff like that. And so we did that the first night, and then he said, you know what? As we ran through it again, I said, hey, can we run through a couple tunes, you know, again before the next concert? He said, you know, I have something better. Instead of the Russian turnaround, just go to F. And I said, and that's a half step up from the 5. So we start on the 4, 4. And 1, 5. Now here. So sorry. And now we have what doesn't seem like a 4-bar song, what really seems like a much longer song. And I said, I would call that like the Dark Eyes turnaround. Because that's the change in Dark Eyes. Because how musicians play it now is different than how it was written. Dark Eyes is the 5 to the 1, 5, and then back to the 1, and then to the 4. 1, 5. That's kind of the very basic way, but that's not the way anybody plays it. Now it's basically always played with, instead of going back to the 1, it does the same thing. Now I'm going to go to B flat. That's what it does. So I'm calling it the Dark Eyes turnaround because I learned it from him. Okay, so that's a cool thing. Now, the other cool thing that's really exciting is there's this tune that Tatiana sent me. I can't believe I didn't remember this. Here, I have that. This is really exciting. And I was super excited about this when I realized. So she said on her list was a song called Johnny. Johnny, tu n'es pas un ange. You're not an angel. Let's listen to this tune.
Johnny, tu n'es pas un ange. Ne crois pas que ça me dérange. Jour et nuit, je pense à toi, toi, tu te souviens de moi au moment où ça t'arrange. Et quand revient le matin, tu t'endors sur mon chagrin. Johnny, tu n'es pas un ange. Johnny, Johnny, si tu étais plus galant. Johnny, Johnny, je t'aimerais tout autant. Johnny, tu n'es pas un ange. Ne crois pas que ça me dérange. Si tu me réveilles la nuit, c'est pour dire.
Okay, so that's the Edith Piaf version, and I was, pardon me, I was listening to it and learning it, and I have never played this with Tatiana nor with any other French singer, unlike a lot of the other material that I played, like Milord and Ménilmontant and C'est Magnifique and this French chanson stuff and American swing stuff. Charles Aznavour and Maurice Chevalier and Edith Piaf and stuff. I've played these now for a while, as I do as an American. But I recognized that melody, and I said, what is up with that? Why do I recognize it? And I could not figure out why I recognize it. So I Googled it, and a Wikipedia page came up with the title, not this video, but the title of this song. And when I put this song into Wikipedia, because I have not yet studied Romanian, so I didn't recognize the tune. But when I put it in, Mariam Mexicanu started coming up, and I said, holy crap, this tune we have listened to. Mariam Mexicanu has 2 versions of this song that we love, and we're going to listen to both of them, and it's the same song. So this is his version. So this is a Romanian song that's pretty old, and that Edith Piaf, wrote French lyrics to and did in her own way. But I was like, holy shit, like I've been listening to this tune already and loving it. So why don't I transcribe it and see if I can, because there's harmonies that they do on this recording. Let's listen to it. That I'll show you guys. That I was like, I wonder if I can learn them on this recording and then like kind of try them out with Tatiana, maybe in the and the bass player and the violinist and stuff. See if she likes them, because it would be really fun. Because like, oh, it's an excuse for me to transcribe this music and then actually play it with somebody. And she's singing the tune in Romanian. It's so cool. So here it is. it's more traditional in the groove. This one we have listened to a bunch because I love it. It's the one that has the R2D2 kind of like robotic flute beeps that Marian is playing on his accordion. You guys will recognize this. Same tune. But this one, the groove is a little essentially the same arrangement, just a slightly different groove and definitely a different tempo, and of course a different soloist because the other one is Romeo Mexicano, who's Mary Mexicano's son, on the clarinet. So and it was great because it was like a little bit of an excuse or a reason to learn those cool harmonies, which present themselves on the chorus. So I think they're doing this in the key of D minor. Whereas Tatiana did it in A minor. So let's see. So I'm gonna play the Edith Piaf changes first. Something like that. I botched a little bit here. But I'll do the same thing, but with these changes, and I'll hold up the iReel so you guys can see what it is. It's really fun. And man, there's no way that I could get any of these cool ornaments. I did slow him down though, super slow, to try to check out what he's doing. And it sounds to me like it's this half step above, like you hit your target note and then you go up a half step and back, but really like gentle and smooth and really fast. I wish I could get that wherever I wanted it. It would be so cool if I could just get it on all the melody notes. It would sound so cool. But so here it is with the left hand harmonies that I heard off of the first record, which now it sounds like or the first recording. To the beat. Anyway, not a perfect performance, but you get the idea. Let me show you guys the difference in the changes. It's really neat, and what they're doing is not what I'm used to in jazz. Let's see. I have this saved as Marian Mexicano here. Let's see. We'll do Johnny first, though. I think I have the. Yeah. Okay. Well, no, that's that one. Oh, I had the original, then I edited it and resaved it. So it's so what's going on the bridge is the D minor, and then they put this cool. It sounds to me like a half step dominant, No, diminished. Did I write dominant? I should change that to diminished. It sounds to me like, because it's like a 2-5-1, and that's what it is on the Edith Piaf recording: D minor 7, G7, C major. But the way that these guys do it, it's and then so it's like a tritone sub of a secondary dominant, which happens a lot in jazz, but usually not with a diminished and not like that. Like the harmonic rhythm is different. And then this like walk down thing that, so it's a 1 over its third, you know, common tone diminished, and then 2-5-1, and then they walk it down. And then the second time through is really neat. To the what do you call it? The dark eyes chord. This is a really neat way to get back to your 1. So you go from the 4 to the B flat, to the B diminished, to the A over the C, and then I was trying to get an F sharp in there on the third beat, and then 5-5. Let's see, and I'll walk it up. Isn't that so cool? I love it so much. I love it when I listen to it. I love them more than I love me, but I love being able to do it. So that's really fun. And just, you know, it's so cool when you learn that stuff. All right, so that's the end of the tour segment. Yeah. All right. So pre-infusion for the Iranian music. I was trying to, you know, I hear a lot of people refer to things from Iran as Persian, and Google is all I got today, or I looked this up a few days ago. But the internet told me like Persian people, or pardon me, people from Iran just call everything Iranian. They don't use the word Persian, but expatriate people use the term Persian to describe Iran. So I don't know. I am not of that culture. I claim no legitimacy, and just trying to explain what I know in hopes that we can all learn together. All right, so let's check out now. Oh yeah, I have a playlist. Do I? Oh no, wait. I have. Here we go. Okay, so here let's start this way. So this musician, I don't think, and this stuff is not specifically about Iranian music, but it is sort of about Arabic classical music. So let's listen to this gentleman.
Before you go into this, can you just, for the audience, explain the difference between maqam as a form and maqam as a scale?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
The way that typically we think about the maqam in Arabic music is very different than your typical scale in a Western European kind of format. When you think of a scale, you would play something, notes in a specific sequence, ascending and descending, like the following. For example, this is a minor harmonic minor scale, which sounds like this. Okay, this is something that's very common in a classical conservatory where you would learn to play it in this way.
Yeah.
But we have a similar a maqam that uses the same notes of this called nahawand. However, we don't play it in this same sequence as notes ascending and descending in that way. We play it as a melody. So the way we learn a maqam is exactly how you would learn a language. We learn it by learning phrases and sentences, musical phrases and sentences that you would use in that way. Or learning a vocabulary, for example, and then you can create your own sentences with that. So the way I would play the same notes, but within the context of Arabic music as nahawand, is the following. Instead of right? So the emphasis on the melody is very, very, very important.
Okay, so just a little moment about maqams and scales, and I'll jump in here and just say, like, what I think I know about this type of music is it's what I would call modal music. And the West would call this modal music in the sense that it doesn't move through, the music's not moving through a whole bunch of different tonalities and chord changes and chord progressions inside of that music. It's these music based on these maqams, these scales, which even then are more, they move in sort of specific ways. So let's see, I have another video by an oud player talking about the difference between quarter tones in different musics. And what I was told by my friend who plays Persian classical music on accordion here in the United States, and she is an American musician, phenomenal musician, by the way. She said that across, you could be a musician in Lebanon, you could be a musician in Turkey, and you could be a musician, say, in Iran, and these three countries, and you could all play the same song. But in each place, the exact tuning of where the microtones are in your scales are a little bit different, and they're different enough so that you all three might play the same song, the same repertoire, or all of the same songs. Your set, you could play exactly the same set with the same musicians, a Lebanese band and an Egyptian band and an Iranian band, but those bands could not play together. The musicians could not play together because of the tunings are different. And so I thought it would be interesting to listen to this video a little bit.
Hey, this is Navid from Oud for Guitars. Today you're going to learn the difference between Persian, Arabic, and Turkish quarter tones. Now, I didn't start listening to Arabic and Turkish music until about 8 or 9 years ago. Up until that point, I was always listening to Persian traditional music. But when I did start listening, I noticed that the quarter tones between Arabic and Turkish and Persian music were a little bit different. Now, I've got a simple rule for you to follow so that you can help differentiate and remember the difference between Persian, Arabic, and Turkish quarter tones. Persian quarter tones tend to be flatter than both Arabic and Turkish quarter tones. Turkish quarter tones tend to be sharper than both Arabic and Persian quarter tones, and Arabic tonality is somewhere in between. This is not a perfect rule, but I think it's generally true. Let me give you a little demonstration. It's going to be really hard to tell the difference, but bear with me here. In Persian music, we have a scale called abwata. Its equivalent in Arabic and Turkish music is makam bayati and makam hoshak. The scale goes D, E quarter flat, F, G, A, B flat, C, D. The quarter tone is the second note in the scale, E quarter flat. This is what it sounds like in Persian music. This is what it would sound like in Arabic. This is what it would sound like in Turkish. Each one is a little bit sharper. Now, depending on who plays this, it will sound different in varying degrees. But a general rule is that the Persian quarter tones are a little bit flatter than Arabic and Turkish ones tend to be the sharpest. Now let's listen to the scale. Here's abwata. Makam bayati. Turkish makam bayati, makam hoshak. Abwata. Makam bayati. Turkish makam bayati bashak. The difference is really subtle, but it is there. And this is really important for oud players because we have all the flexibility in the world to play our quarter tones flatter or sharper. And depending on the genre of music you're playing, this would be important to remember. I want you to listen to two different songs. One is played by an Arabic ensemble and one is played by a Turkish Armenian ensemble. It's both the same song they're playing, but with slightly different quarter tones. Now, just for fun, here's my challenge to you. In the comments below, tell me which one is using flatter quarter tones and which one is using sharper quarter tones. Oud for guitars.
What do you guys think? To me, the second one sounds flatter. I'm not gonna scroll down to the comments until we get an answer from somebody in the chat. I'm curious. I've never messed around with, playing quarter tones or learning any of this stuff at all. I've talked to a couple. I have a friend in New York City, a musician. A lot of people you work with, you end up becoming friends with a lot of times, especially if you work with them frequently. Spend some time together. But wonderful gypsy jazz guitar player named Josh Kay, who, man, about 6 years ago or so, it could be longer, I don't know, but he started picking up the oud and playing Arabic classical music again. And now he has a wonderful band called, I believe it's called Baklava Express, maybe. I think it's kind of a fun name. He is a fun guy with a lot of sense of humor. But lower, Birdie, you mean lower, right? Lower pitch? Yeah. I'm going to interpret that as lower. Okay, let's see. Any answers? Nobody's answering. By the way, okay, here. So I've been saying it wrong immediately, right out of the gate. I've been calling them quarter tones, but they're not. They're microtonal intervals. Thank you. Quarter tones as a term is an oversimplification. That's very cool. Yeah, because how could it be a quarter tone if one is a little bit more of a quarter and one is it's either a quarter, it's not a quarter, right? This is interesting stuff. But I'm excited to explore accordion music from this area. It's one of the things that I've decided I wanted to do a couple of years ago was really that Anne wants to hear it again. Let's hear it again, Anne. Okay, let's hear it again. I didn't see an answer there when I was scanning the comments. So one of these, he says one of them is using microtonal intervals, which are sharper, and one is using microtonal intervals, which are flatter. So to me, it's helpful to bounce back and forth. So if you're just listening or not paying close attention, I'll tell you when. So this is number one. And this is two. And this is two. And one. To me, one sounds sharper, I think, but it's interesting too because the second recording is like a lower. there's less overtones. It's just a lower fidelity recording. So as us that don't know, where's the answer? Second is sharper. Almost sounds major. Okay. Second is sharp. Okay, cool. I'm prepared to say I was wrong for sure. Maybe by the end of this, or as we go along, maybe we'll all get better at hearing these microtonal intervals. Let's see. Anything else? Well, that's all right. Okay. Oh, you guys aren't seeing the video. Sorry. There. So I was scrolling through this. These comments here. All right. And then I have one more video, and I just thought I only want to listen to a little bit of this. So I think this is I didn't listen to all of this. I grabbed stuff in haste, which is why I'm not starting the Iranian music or any of the Middle Eastern music dives today, because I really want to put together a nice set of stuff, so we can get educated about, you know, the history of the music and how it works, and the most popular songs and all that sort of stuff. Who are the famous accordion players, if I can find them in each country. But this is one that I just want to listen to the beginning of. You know what? We don't even need to listen. I think this is a YouTube essay about a musician talking about how in the West, what comes into popular music to represent Arabic music is not at all correct. But we won't do that. We'll just kind of end this segment with that being our little taste of what's to come. And like I said, I'm interested in exploring lots of these cultures. Here, this should be cool to explore these different musics. Okay, so that being said, now I'm going to show some of the Palmer-Hughes book. I'm doing this in the spirit of fair use and educational purpose here. And you should purchase this book. You should not pirate anything. You should purchase it. And you can get it from Busso Music online. They hold I talked to Frank Busso about this. I think one of the big publishers. Okay, so Paris. Okay, so Paris, you hear. Okay, so you can hear that. That's cool. All right, so you heard it as sharper. All right, that's cool. Very cool. But yeah, so going into this little segment on method books and how I would approach method books now, say, and also when I'm working with students. If I was writing a method book, if I were using Palmer-Hughes method books, where is it amazing? Where is it still relevant? Where is it helpful? What does it do? Right? All those things. What are important things that are not there that could be there? What is not there that a student needs to learn to go through music? And that's what I want to talk about now. So for all method books are really useful and helpful in a number of different situations. For those of us that are, I think all musicians are to some degree self-taught. Like that's just how it works, you know, like unless, you know, it doesn't, if you've made it into adulthood playing music, there are many things that you have just sought out on your own. And to be any sort of artist is to be self-taught. So to have a lot of things that we're self-taught in. But the accordion in the United States, I can say as somebody who learned this, it has been always a very large challenge to find satisfying educational opportunities. And I've found them, but I've had to dig and then things that I've wanted to learn, like how to sound like a French accordion player. It's kind of obvious I haven't learned in the United States. I've learned how to sound like an American accordion player in the United States. And I've had to travel to France and study from French accordion teachers to learn how to sound like a French accordion player, because that's the sound that I like. You know, that's the music that I'm drawn to. So I don't mean anything by that. But if we just talk about, like, first I thought it would be interesting to talk about the role of a method book. And so if you have a teacher, a method book can be a helpful way to speed up the learning process by having a graded, so going from less challenging and less complex to slowly and gradually more and more challenging and more information, in a way that is designed to move at a pace that the student can have new concepts added. One of the reasons I like the Richard Galliano method book is because of the way the material is laid out. I should not call it the Richard Galliano method book. Actually, that's a misstatement. It's really the Lucian Galliano method book, although Richard is given credit as well. But Lucian is Richard's father, and they have a wonderful method book. But Palmer-Hughes is really also a wonderful method book. But there are things now that I know about accordion and music that are not represented in that book that I think, for me, are really important. And so for me, the purpose of the Palmer-Hughes books, and let's pull one up for a visual reference here. These are classics. Method book 1, which I just have, just for teaching purposes, I have a couple photos of. Trying to get this to open up here. There we go. Okay, you guys should all know this. Change this. Go to this, and voila. Okay, so purchase this from Buso Music. They're the best, and that's a one-man operation with a family, and he's a working musician and all that sort of stuff, and he's a great guy. And so buy it from him, because that's not a chain, that's not Amazon. Buy it from Buso Music. It's good. Support our community. That being said, I'm using this with fair use, and I hope that this inspires you to purchase more stuff. So what this book does is it is designed for children, right? And topics that are designed for children are usually have simplified ideas that a child can understand. So usually not a lot of abstract concepts for children, not necessarily not imaginative concepts, but not super complex and abstract. And they tend to be very, very simple. And that's what this book is. And it teaches you how to read music, how to read the staff, and it teaches you gradually how to play the accordion, starting with the right hand. So we have our first exercises on the right hand, and you can see somebody's written on this copy. And then first exercise in the left hand, and it's very large. And one thing that I like about this book is it goes relatively very slow. So you get many examples in the Palmer-Hughes book of the same, many exercises, many example pieces and exercises to work on the same idea. Unlike a book like the Richard Galliano, or the Galliano, I always call it the Richard Galliano. I'm probably going to till I die. But the Galliano method book is wonderful, but you only get one example piece for every new concept. So every new piece is a new concept. And not all students are going to master, or one piece is not always sufficient to get a student to really have enough mastery or understanding of that topic before adding another concept. So that is one thing that I like a lot that the Palmer-Hughes books do. What they do, I'm going to talk about what I think they do, and then I'm going to talk about the other things that I think I would do with a student who is beginning at this time as I sit here in this chair on July 3rd, 2025. Having been originally self-taught on accordion and then studied for a little bit with this teacher and for a little bit with that teacher and for a little bit with that teacher and a little bit with that teacher. And also learned a lot self-taught and off of records and stuff. So we get how to read music, and we get how to coordinate the hands in a way that at the beginning doesn't have much syncopation at all in the first book. And we get many repetitions. There are many. So this one you get C, you get all 5 notes here, and then we'll get another song that's very similar with all 5 notes. And now we have some practicing reading, which is great. Practicing reading the music. So teaching the student how to read sheet music, which is important in this tradition of music. And then we get another song that has all 5 notes. And rhythmically it changes, so rhythmically now we have quarter notes where we only had dotted half notes before. And now we're introducing ties, and it's still on just the first 5 notes and the key of C. And I think that that's really nice, really good. And it sort of accommodates a certain speed of learning, which can be for myriad reasons. So if a student seems to be going quicker, you can just skip some, right? Which is not something that you're going to be able to do with a book that goes too fast. And what I'm doing is I'm spending time establishing the things that it does do, just so we have a concept of like what it's after. So this teaches you a lot of things. So if I'm new to an instrument, right, say, oh, here, I know how I want to connect this. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to show you guys this book, which a student sent to me. And I'm so excited. I just started working on this book yesterday, and I'm super excited. I've already suggested to a student that they start using it with me. And this is a wonderful textbook written by someone who has been a ear training professor at Berklee College of Music, who has worked with accompanying very famous jazz vocalists. It's a jazz guitarist named Donovan Mixon. And I love this publishing company so much. This is Advanced Music, and they make the best looking music textbooks. And this is all about ear training for a jazz musician. And it's fantastic. And it's not necessarily contemporary jazz, but like, 1625 and 3625 and Cherokee and Just the Way You Look Tonight and all that sort of stuff. So it's great. And it's a lot about singing, and it's a lot about listening and transcribing and trying to hear stuff before you play it, and all this really cool stuff. It's really, really cool. And this answers some questions that I've had. And this is a method book, and I'm using it. I could have found some jazz teachers to study with, but I decided to do this because I wanted some guidance, right? So like, I'm a professional musician. I tour, I play, I know a lot of theory and stuff, and I know how to teach myself. But there are some doubts that I have too about how to learn. So say for some things, because I'm a learner, and even though I'm intrepid and I have a lot of experience, there's some things that I'm just not certain about how to proceed with. And that creates doubt. And the doubt really impedes my ability to work confidently and fully and create my own curriculum. And so what a method book can do is it can really give you a 24/7 accessible expert to tell you, hey, in this musical circumstance, I would use this fingering on your instrument. Like, okay, cool. That can be very helpful for a learner who doesn't have experience with fingering. Or if they have bellowing written in, like, oh, I'm just not sure, you just don't know because you're learning. So it's like, oh, I would, here's what you should do. Open the bellows for here and shut the bellows for here, and even where to begin, so method books by their definition break things down into easier and more complex and more complex and more complex. And those things are all really wonderful and really, really useful. And that is certainly what Palmer-Hughes does. It gives us fingering. Like you can look at drill number 2 here that I just pulled up, and it's telling you third finger on the E and second finger on the D. And that's great for the piano accordion. That's great. And the bases are so simple that it's just, they're just telling you 3-2 for everything because it's all major chords. So they don't need to write that in. But the same, and it goes up, they have, 7 levels of Palmer-Hughes. And that's great. And now I'm going to stop talking about all the great stuff and the stuff that I would do differently. The stuff that I'm not working on a method book. But someday in my life, I'm positive I will come out with my own. Unless Jamie and Gabe get to it first and do one that I can't top or something, that they just put everything that they would do in it. And it's like way better than what I would come up with. But so what is not there that I have picked up, like studying with Jack and hanging out with them, and actually even the first time I was over at Cinema, I think it was, maybe it was the second time, one of the times, I think the first time I said, hey, how do you guys because I was just introduced to their ideas, their intense musicality, and their intense dedication and admonition that music must be expressive, it must be creative, it must be full of feeling, even and especially from the very beginner. From the very beginner, it must be. And so I suppose there are two topics that I want to talk about. One is expression, and the idea that a beginner should not worry about being expressive. And if we take only the text of Palmer-Hughes, if we only interpret like as though this was an ancient text, right? Like we don't. I think Palmer and Hughes are both long deceased, but we certainly know people who knew them personally and could probably tell us exactly what they thought about all this stuff. Like Joanne Cochran Summers, for example, she knew both those guys. I think Willard Palmer, everybody seems to reference more. But this idea of expression and musicality, right? Those things they're not present in the Palmer-Hughes books at all. Zero. There's you know what? I'm not familiar with the later books, so I'm sure that they do start in introducing dynamics and articulations and that sort of stuff, but they're certainly not present in the first and initial books. There is not talk of dynamics. There's not talk of there's nothing except for the pure mechanics. And if we take only the text, and I don't mean to misrepresent Palmer and Hughes and say that they didn't care about this, because I'm sure that's not the case. But what I am saying is that if we think that just the method book itself is going to give us what we have to learn from the music, right? Then in book 1 and book 2, and I don't know if I dug into, I wonder how many books I could go through until I started finding stuff about, say, dynamics, for example, which I would say is a major component for learning an instrument to create feeling and expression. How far we would have to go until we get that, right? And it's like, okay, well, why do we wait so long? And that's a pedagogical choice. That is a choice that they've made. And maybe they would say, well, we just assumed that the teacher who's working with the child or the learner, because these books were written for kids, but nowadays adults use them, and I'm sure back then adults use them too. So just because they're marketed to kids doesn't mean they're only for kids. What's up, Jose? How you doing? Mucho gusto. Thank you. Thank you for saying hi, and thanks for watching today's stream, Jose. If you don't know the stream, if you're brand new, I'm just talking about these method books of Palmer-Hughes and how I might do things a little differently with the focus of inspiring. And so to cut to my chase without blabbing is like, I met with Jacques, and he and Natalie both shared to me how they teach, and they shared me actually how they teach young kids as well. And both of them have produced enormous talent, very, very high achieving musicians. And in fact, I want to look at one of those students who has been working with them since she was a very young girl. And we'll watch a video of her, Madeline, in a moment. But basically, their ethos is that expression and creativity should be there at the very beginning. And that, I think, is what's up. It should be. It should be. And because you want to start correctly, right? So if you're a young kid, and whatever, however age you are, you hear music in life, right? And the music you hear does not sound like the music that you'll end up playing on the accordion, and it doesn't even probably sound like the music that you start with on the accordion. It doesn't sound like. And again, I'm not saying this is not about Palmer-Hughes being bad. It's not bad. It is not bad. I'm simply saying that there are more components that I think are really important, and this is what I would do. So if we go to, like, say, the kickoff. E, G, E, C, D, F, D, G, dum, dum, dum. Right? Okay. That's the melody to that. But that doesn't sound like music that anybody's listening to. There was a farmer, had a dog, Bingo was his name. Oh, B-I-N-G-O, B-I-N-G-O. the way I just performed that song, which children would sing in nursery school and stuff like that, that has musicality together to it, and it has to engage those little new human beings in the world, right? If I'm teaching a kid a song, I need to be lit up and alive, as you know. And we usually teach kids fun, cheerful, happy songs because that's what we do with kids. Kids are happy and fun, and well, they cry, but then we comfort them. But but I'm bringing all of this musicality to that thing, right? So all along the way, children are experiencing, when they're listening to real music that we listen to, is extremely expressive. And when we're just singing with them, we sing in ways that are expressive, right? And there's none of that in this book at all. And this is the same for like all method books or most method books. And so this is one component of where I would go differently. And were I working with any student for whom I could today, it would be, okay, so let's talk about how we can take this melody. So it's true, we're building our nervous system. Just holding the accordion is weird. The whole thing is weird. I don't know how to read this new language and these lines and dots and all that sort of stuff, right? But still, the admonition, being so important that we need to breathe life and spirit into this thing. And if the thing that I'm looking at that's telling me how to play it, right, is just flat and doesn't say, and it's, okay, I go, dee, da, dee, da, da, dum, you know, if what's right or wrong is just mechanically, did everything line up? Did you play good enough in time? You've got the notes, you held the accordion on you, and that's good, and we move on. And that's good, and we move on. And that's good, and we move on. And that's good. I think we're really missing a lot of potential for expression that could absolutely be achieved, you know. I don't sing to a child, there was a farmer, had a dale, and Bingo was his name, O-B-I-N-G-O-B. It's not. It's, there was a farm, ba-ba-bum, beat it, da-da-bum, bum, you know, and it's like, there's no reason why that shouldn't, in my opinion, and this is my live stream and this is my topic, but we can have all that expression. Now, how you can write that into the method book, well, I would have to think about that. You know, I would have to, I think it's unrealistic to think that a child could interpret that. That's so sophisticated that they would need that modeled to them, right, by a good teacher. But if the teacher is working off of a book, right, and the book is telling the teacher what to do, then the book should include all that stuff. So I believe that what primarily right out of the gate for a method book, in addition to just knowing, so you're supposed to know to read the note. I see a shape, a circle on a line, on 5 lines, right? And I learned to read that represents that I press this key, right? And then that key makes a sound. But even, we'll get to that in a second. So the circle on the line, and I press it, and then I'm supposed to count 2, 3, and then I go to the next circle on the next line, and I on 2, 3. And meanwhile, you know, I'm working on my left hand, all that sort of stuff. That's okay, but I don't think it's ever too early to say, okay, play the, can we play that circle on the line, make it feel soft, make it like a mouse. You know, if we're talking to a kid or an adult, you know, an adult would also immediately get it. And it is, I think it is a, this is my opinion, but I think it is setting a low bar for our educational system to not include that. And I'll be very clear, I think the world of the ATG, I respect them so much. But what I would love to see in their syllabus and their examinations is to have an emotional component that they require a person to be judged on. And that emotional component can absolutely be quantified. It absolutely can. Because you could say, okay, you must demonstrate, here's our practice pieces, and they have crescendos and decrescendos. They have retardandos and accelerations. They have louders and softers. And even at the very base level, the student who's who wants to complete level 1, say, for this thing, which, and I think the ATG syllabus is amazing, and all the super intelligent, super musical, wonderful musicians who put so much time and energy to it, and they really moved us forward. But I do really think that it is missing a crucial component part. 2 things, actually. One of the most important is, though, this expressive capability. So I would say on a song like The Kickoff, like, where even are the phrases? You know, it's not even apparent there. And it's so, for anyone learning, it's so obvious. I would say, da, dee, dum, dum, do, da, dee, dum, da, dee, da, dum, do, dum, dum. You know exactly where the phrases are because I've left a little gap. You know, even if you don't know, if I just said, raise your hand every time I sang a new phrase, you would know. And then we say, okay, well, these are sentences. So how can we make them sound differently, And these are very, very important things, very, very important things. So how I would do things different is even further up here. We would talk about playing notes. If you just got the accordion on for the first time, and of course, kids, adults, everybody wants to do stuff right out of the gate. So you have to let new people just do stuff, even if it doesn't have if it's full of mistakes and it doesn't have the right stuff, because that's what keeps you going. So you need all that. But if this is designed to educate us, it should include dynamics and phrasing and expression. And I don't think that it's too complex for any and every human being is enormously emotionally expressive. We are. And so it's just a matter of like putting it in there and sort of stating it in a way that a newer musician could understand. Jacques Mornay showed me a wonderful exercise on some method books from Astier, and I can show you that on, where's the note reading page? Yes, here. So he showed me, I'm looking at Magic Page here, and Jacques showed me on something identical to this, basically. It was just same thing, long staff with no measure lines at all, no bar lines, just a whole bunch of notes just to practice, so the student can practice getting better at reading music. So we learn how to read this language that we're playing. And he showed me this thing, which was so eye-opening. It was such a revelation to me. He said, okay, so here's what I have them do. He said, and in France, they use fixed do. So it's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do instead of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But I'm going to say it as we say in the United States, which is C, D, E. And he said, okay, so he says, I have them when they're doing this exercise as beginners, I have them first, before they play it, they have to say each note name, right? They have to say it out loud. So C, D, E. Let me zoom in here. And he said, but the exercise is not just to play them. It's not just, okay, can you find a C and play it? They have to say it in a way that's expressive and creative. And this was like, whoa. And this was for young kids or new beginners, So he did this, and he is such a character. He is nobody is Jacques, man. Jacques is the best. He's so amazing. I'm gonna do from my memory. So C, D, E, F, G, C. And all I'm doing is reciting. I'm starting here on this very first. Let me see. Move my mouse around. I'm starting here. C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, D. Now I'm going to scroll to the next. F, E, F, G, F, E, D. And he's doing it in a way that's probably more sophisticated than the student, but that's good. You should demonstrate things. You should keep your bar high for students always, never make them feel like they can't meet it, but you want to show them the musicality they can achieve. And so it's inside of learning how to read music. It's the idea that the student can be creative with the interpretation of the music in two ways. Mostly it's in the way of the speed of moving notes, but also when we recite it like this, like we're saying, like we're trying to be very, almost like William Shatner or something. Like you're not trying to be William Shatner, but you're trying to be fun and silly and surprising, and you're trying to go fast and slow and run and then hold on it, you know. Those are the things which are free and expressive, and you start to go, oh, and that was just so genius of Jacques to I don't know, to have that approach, and that influenced me so much, and that from that I just understood so much of how you can approach early learning like this, or, you know, kind of this fundamental primary learning of stuff, and how the expectation can be for the student to have an ownership at the very beginning that these notes on the page are not ever supposed to sound like C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, D, E. It's not supposed to sound like that. That's not music. That is not music. So why would we do it? And that's Jack's ethos and Natalie's too, right? And it's my ethos now, and now hopefully it's your ethos. Why? Why do that? Why practice that? That's not anything we ever want to do. Why not bring it to life? And you just do. So first you can say C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E. And he did it like he was like having conversations. It was so fun. It was so much fun the way he did it. And I could just see like kids being entranced and laughing and giggling and then feeling really empowered to try it. Because it was so obvious the way he did it, you know, so obvious that we're trying to make it like we are speaking it, have an ownership of this material, this language, and really say it in a way that is like a human being and not like symmetrically spaced notes on a page, because that's not music. And why do that at any level, at any phase? So expression. And so this now gets into creativity, because you're telling immediately in book 1, say, of Palmer-Hughes, saying, okay, hey, my friend, whoever you are, maybe you're 90 years old, maybe you're 9 years old, whoever you are, guess what? We're on this magic page or whatever it's called. Like, you get to get silly. That's such a great teaching tool too, because we have such fear and apprehension of the unknown, and there's a hierarchy, and we want to achieve. If we're told we can be silly and goofy, then that just breaks it all open, you know. What's his name? The guys from Monty Python talk about this, how humor can disarm a lot of things, being funny. But so and a way to be creative right at the beginning. So you do that, and he said first they say it. First they just name it and say it. They don't have to sing the pitches. They just have to say the notes. So you're still learning the same thing. And is it more fun? Heck yeah, it's more fun. And then you put on your accordion and you try to do the same thing. And so now you're pushing your nervous system in a way that's fun to be. Just think of, instead of just playing C, D, E, F, G, okay, that's a certain amount of challenge, but it's certainly not as challenging as C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, D, E, F, right? Like, that's way harder. But when we combine it, when the student doesn't have to look at it externally, and they can just say, okay, and they're not going to do it right. They're going to have to practice it, but it's connecting all these. Okay, C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, D, E, F, G, whatever the next notes are, right? So you start where it's super easy. You know, it's still graded. And this is a Jacques Mornay. All credit to Jacques Mornay for this. This is his idea, but hopefully, you know, the world should know this. I think at least all of us in the United States should have this concept applied to all the things. It's so good. So creativity and expression can also and should be paramount and primary, because as we all know, all of you watching have started at a level earlier in music, and as you've gotten better, you've found more and more of yourself, and you found more and more of an ability to express, and you found yourself more that you do want to express. You want to put your individual spin on it. And I'm just saying, there's no reason we shouldn't do that right from the very beginning. So that is a second thing that I would add and do is it's very easy to play with, to make it so we understand that even though we're reading music, it's my job to bring it to life, and it has to have energy and creativity, you know. And you could do the same thing with volume. You could say C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, D, E. You know, there's all sorts of fun things for it. You can state this in ways that are very kid friendly and very adult friendly, you know, in all different ways. But the idea is to make the music, like to make sure that we are putting, I don't like this word musicality. Rising Read Livestream doesn't like the word musicality, but let's just say musicality into it, right? Okay. So, oh, and Jose says that they are beginning with the instrument. So it's very interesting. Cool. Keyboard player. Yeah, Jose. Awesome. My tips for all keyboard players, if you play any accordion, is think about the release of your note. That's where I notice even the most fabulous keyboard players, amazing. One thing that they don't have right out of the gate is the touch. And it's really about the release of the note. Think about it. Try to play things much less connected, much less legato, and you'll find so much more of your time and articulation comes when you consider releasing the note before starting the next note. That's a little tip for you. So expression, dynamics, creativity, those are things which are not represented, which I think in any method book for learners, it should be there. It should be right on the page to remind, if there is an instructor, to remind the instructor. If it's somebody without an instructor teaching themselves, just state it right like it is. And today in 2025, you could add links to YouTube videos or audio recordings or whatever, you know, to say, hey, before you go, listen to me, click this link or go to this website and listen to me tell you how you should do this, you know, this thing. Okay, so that's about expression, which is not here in the Palmer-Hughes books. The other thing, and a very fundamental way that I would approach this from the very beginning, is I would have a, you're welcome, it's my pleasure. I have a video, also Jose, check out my video, it's called, I think, Accordion Left Hand or Accordion Bass for the Creative Beginner. That video seems to be popular with people and I'm excited about it. Check that one out too. I think you might like that one. It just shows like little left-hand patterns and stuff you can do, how to kind of get more, especially since you have all this additional experience. Okay, so the other thing that I would approach radically different, and this has to do so much with my own tradition as being somebody who plays a lot of jazz and I've always like learned chords and that sort of stuff, but I didn't learn this approach. It took me a while to get there, which is the idea of seeing music not as notes on a page, but as parts of a tonality. So I would, in my method book, I would immediately have a student play, you would play 3 notes in the key of C, and then you would immediately move your hand to G and you would play the same melody on G. And then you'd move to F, and back to C. And there would immediately be the idea that this song is made, say the song is in the key of C, that I'm playing the first step of the scale. And I would have exercises saying 1, or I like solfege, which solfege is just a numbering system. It just doesn't use Arabic numbers that we call 1, 2, 3, 4. It uses these syllables, but the syllables mean 1, sharp 1, 2 sharp. So it's a numbering system. So solfege is wonderful because it's more musical. Either one, but immediately I would combine that because that is teaching at the beginning step. It's teaching the students so much, especially when you transpose something to another key. For a beginner, it's so easy to do on a super simple melody, and it begins to immediately establish this idea that, oh, I can play it here. You say, bravo, oh, that's amazing, that's great. But okay, play it with more feeling. Okay, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Now smooth. Whatever, however you could get this straw man, this hypothetical student, right, to be expressive and creative. But then you say, okay, now just take your fingers, look at the keyboard if you have to, and do this with your hand here. And then they have to use their ears, and they see, oh, I'm so. And it's no harder. It is no harder at all. No, it's not more challenging. But we start to understand this very fundamental, this governing principle of our music, that we have this concept of tonality. And that will serve them. It will serve all of us. It serves me, which is why I'm working on this book. It will serve us to hear and to have a comprehension of the nuts and bolts of our music, which is very simple. It's very simple and easy to understand that we have a palette of 3 notes, and we're going to call one note 1, and the next note 2, and the next note 3. And the left hand is playing a 1. Right? And so this could all be broken down. So teaching immediately, I would even more so than reading on the staff, I would slow that down, because theoretically we have like limited time, right? For a child or somebody that's new to the accordion or anything, an adult, you have a limited time. So you can't teach everything, but I would reduce the amount that they are at the beginning learning how to read the staff, and I would increase the amount that they are internalizing, especially these super simple melodies are so easy and fast for all of us to go 3 2 1 2 3 3 3 2 2 2 3 3 3, and you could do fun things like you could have stickers and you could just play 1 2 3, little easy peel off sticker, and say, okay, play this pattern on here. Okay, now we're gonna peel off the stickers and we're gonna put it on G. Okay, now play it there. Like there, I could think of so many ways that this, because it is a little bit of an abstract concept, but at the same time, like we do it all the time. Like you could have them, if you had somebody new to music just sing it, sing it in different keys, I don't think it would relate to the actual mechanics of the instrument. But if you just have them do it on the instrument, then immediately we're learning music theory, we're learning tonality, we're learning all of this amazing stuff. And in order to do that too, we are turning our ears on in this way that is what we want to be. I mean, we would all agree to hear it. And so then you could also introduce ear training here. So you could have things like simple ear training puzzles where you have like maybe song number 3, say, is missing notes. And you have to listen to your instructor or listen to a recording in order to hear what the missing note is supposed to be, right? And then you have to memorize that. You're not allowed to write it out. It's just, so it's like you, in a graded way, you step up the challenge. So I wouldn't immediately, well, you could also, but this is assuming that we're working from a method book. So there are other traditions where we don't have any method book at all, and we learn solely by ear. And like, those are usually phenomenal musicians that come from those traditions of music. So why aren't we just doing that? Well, I don't know, because that's not the subject. The subject is method books. And if we are learning from a method book, here are some ways that we can have a lot more humanity, clarity, emotion, creativity, and these deep skills of actually understanding that the music is made from these steps, and I can hear the steps, I can be creative, I could change the steps. You can have simple, fun things to say, hey, could you flip the shape? Could you flip the shape upside down? Just like drawing it this way, draw it that way. Mix up the notes. Okay, here, take the first phrase and just play them in a different order. Other things. And the more that we use our ears, the more that we memorize things, because music is so much faster to memorize when we learn it by ear. It's like it's no contest. So really, I would design a method book that the aim of it is to build creativity, expression, a knowledge of music theory at a fundamental level, that the music theory serves to understand what's going on, to introduce labels, and also serves to help us be creative, to give us tools. And then the other stuff the method book could present is the important things like fingering. That's really important. There's not one fingering, but if there's options, you still need to know here, you could do it this way or that way. And a beginner should just be given a way. You know, you can't just be like, you'll figure it out. It's like, no, a beginner wants to know. So fingering, there are many things. And it is important to learn to read sheet music. That's a good thing. It's a very good thing to learn sheet music. But at the end of the day, what's going to make you a better accordion player is way more all of these other things. Being expressive, being emotionally expressive, being creative, finding creativity, even understanding what is going on in the music. Those things are going to, even in the short term, but in the long term, lead to much more joy, more contentment, more sense of self, just a stronger musicianship overall than just, can I read sheet music? Can I read more complex sheet music? And here is my words of condemnation. And again, I have all the support for Palmer-Hughes. I just think I would add these additional things to it. But a bass player that I'm going to perform with, Shane Osserud, who's a phenomenal musician, he said it really well to me one day in a big aha moment. He encapsulated it in a way that I'm going to say to you guys right now. And I'm going to pull up this. And he said, you know, the way we are taught music, let's see, let me zoom out. The way we are taught to read music is we are taught that we have an instrument. He's a bass player. My first instrument was a clarinet. So this is my first introduction to music. Even though we had a piano in the house, I didn't start that until after I started clarinet in elementary school in 5th grade. And I learned from Mr. So-and-so, I don't remember his name. Not a great educator. Nothing wrong with the dude. Just I've now subsequently worked with many great educators, and he was not great, but that's fine. But we are taught here. Remember, everybody consider this, what I'm about to say. Conventional music education is that the student is taught to see a dot on a page, right? Like, let me find a dot on the page. They're taught to find a dot on the page, like here, the treble keyboard, or we'll go to the first, here we go, A tune. We're taught to find a dot on the page, and we're taught to, in the case of the accordion, to press a key down, right? And that's supposed to be music. But what about hearing a sound? What about feeling a feeling? What about the idea of rhythm? The idea, like, that's not how we do anything else for children, you know? Kids don't, you read a whole story to a kid. You read them the little duck that went to the grocery store and then it didn't have its wallet and then it's sad and then the neighbor saves it. And, you know, it really is lacking some really fundamental things. And I keep using children as an example, but this applies to adults who learn. And I was an adult who learned accordion, and I wasn't a small child. I was 12 or 11 when I learned clarinet, which is young, but more, you know, more sophisticated than a 6-year-old or something. But I'm going to say that again. The way Shane told me this, the way we are taught conventionally is to learn to play an instrument is we visually see a note on a page and then we press a thing on an instrument. In the case of a bass, you know, it's a fretting a thing and moving a bow or plucking a string. Guitar, it's holding a fret and moving your hand. Piano, it's putting your finger on a key. But where's the music in that? And why is that the starting point? Why isn't it, hey guys, like here, let me sing you 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now which one did I sing? Ba. And they say 2. And I say, nice try. Let's try this again. 1, 2, 3. And it's not 2. Oh. Da. Oh, you know, and like it's engage the listening, engage the creativity, engage the connection to feeling. Those are the things that can and should be taught at the very beginning. And if we're like so many of us learn from method books at the beginning solely, if you have a good teacher, then that's not your whole, or I would say a good teacher is a teacher who's not just doing this. But even so, the role of a method book should be, I think, to do far more than that, you know. And I don't think it's too hard to do. Certainly, it's a lot more material, and you would move slower, a little slower in certain ways. But in the long run, you'd move so much faster, and you would connect that human being to why we're all here for music so much more immediately, you know. And that's the end of my 2 hours today, guys. Let me check in with the chat. So that was it. Let me see what's the next topic. I mean, talking about all this inspires me to write my own method book. And again, I extend this to every other method book I've ever read. They're all just about fingering and a complexity of musical ideas, but none of them convey all this stuff that should be there right from the beginning. In learning about the partimento method, which partimento, I've talked about this on the live stream before. Partimento is it's a name for a kind of an exercise from Italy from the early Renaissance periods, primarily in Naples, I'm pretty sure. And partimentos are exercises, but scholars over the last 20 years, more so than any other period of time before this, have found these partimentos and translated these documents to learn that the Baroque era, up until kind of the beginnings of sort of the bourgeois middle class, where they had the university system. That's kind of the end of this period. But that period, they taught music like this, and that's where all of our classical music comes from. So like the origins of our musical tradition of learning are really learning by ear, being creative, making up your own parts, learning to, hey, I'm playing with this other person and they're missing this part. I know how to do that. I hear that it's missing and I know how to do that regardless of my instrument, right? And I believe for all of us that can be the way forward, through our music. And any one of these things would be a big addition. I want to promote next week's live stream, which will be on Tuesday. And you'll see me next Tuesday. You won't see me the Tuesday after that. I'm going to take that off because we're going to take a vacation. So I definitely will not be streaming that day. But let me see what's on the schedule for the next live stream. And thank you so much for joining me and listening to me rant. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So, well, first of all, I will have all my stuff together to begin sort of us checking out some more accordion players from various Middle Eastern places, including Egypt and Iran and Israel and many other countries. And let's see, here we go. Okay. Okay. So this is my thought is we'll be watching a ton of videos next time. And I want to talk about my perspective of getting into the accordion world as, I don't know, in my 20s, really. I did not grow up playing the accordion. But I've been in it for a little while, and the accordion is such a new instrument that we have among us people who have lived almost the entire history of the accordion, which is so amazing and cool. For example, Joanne Cochran Summers, who just turned 90, she's been a badass professional performer and educator since she was a young girl, so that is so much of the history of accordion. So we have these people here, and the music has changed. What is played then is different from what is played now. The instruments themselves are different than they are now. Back then they were different, and they've changed over the years. So the repertoire has changed. And of course the whole culture. I probably won't talk too much about the culture. I want to stick to the instruments and the musics that are played, and then techniques that are played now that weren't played so much back then, and just kind of talk about accordion through the ages that we have. It will be probably primarily about chromatic accordions, so piano accordions and chromatic button accordions. But I think that'll be nice and fun and a cool thing to consider. And I'm also trying to just line up guests. So I can think of everyone I've asked has said yes. So I'm like sending out this message like, hey, would you ever consider, I do a live stream at this time, on Tuesdays or whatever. Would you ever consider it? Yeah. So it's just a matter of me following up with these people. And I've even got Alex Meixner checked out the calendar because he's on my email list and opens my emails sometimes, I guess. He's a friend of mine, but he saw that I'm going to do the polka thing. And he's like, hey man, I really want to get in that. He's going to be touring right when I want to do the Oktoberfest thing. So he wants to pre-record our segment. So that'll be really fun. So we're going to get that. And it's good. If you guys have any suggestions of topics or people, because I'm interested in having more guests, because I think that's a way that I can create, I don't know, some more cultural documentation that's fun and useful for us, in addition to just having a nice time every Tuesday. So I'm open to any suggestions from you guys. Let's see. Okay, so Anne says, write my own method book, a big undertaking, but so worthwhile. Yes. So what are they called? When I was like at least 10 years ago, maybe even more, Hal Leonard sent me an email. They must have found my blog or something. And they sent me an email and they said, hey, we want to redo our method book. Would you consider writing a method book? And at that time, I was like about to go. I was studying online with Frederick Deschamps and learning his method for the very first time through the internet. And then I was about to fly over there. And then I was there and I was like, well, I'm now, you know how it is when you're like, when you study with somebody new and they're really amazing, they have this whole thing, you're just there, you're like, well, I'm not even my own thing. Like if I was to write a method book, I would be writing his ideas, Fred's ideas. So I was like, well, I can't, I think I just put them on I think I just like kind of stopped replying to them, I think. And then what I believe they did, I theorized that that's why they went ahead and got the North American publishing rights to the Galliano method book, because that's what ended up coming out with. They didn't put out it didn't seem like they put out their own accordion method book. They just took that one. And I don't know, this is just my own speculation, but my blog post, which got a lot of hits over the years, was about how, in my opinion, the Galliano method book was the best one that was the best one that was out. I don't know that this is true, but these are just things that happened that I've put a narrative together into my mind. Bertie Worcester, you're welcome. Jose, that's so fascinating. That's so cool. What kind of accordion do you play, Jose? Do you have like a small one or a bigger one? I think you said you're from Spain too. That's awesome. Some really fantastic accordion. Valencia, yeah, in Spain. Well, I hope you can all join me again. It will be on Tuesdays. Normally, my accordion live stream is on Tuesdays. Today, I rescheduled it because I flew home from Austin, Texas on Tuesday. I wish you all the best. I hope you have a really safe and happy 4th of July celebration. I hope you get rest and joy and you eat some good, delicious food and have fun with people that you like and love and play lots of accordion and listen to lots of beautiful music. And I'll see you all